Welcome HFY Sci-Fi Starbound. Subscribe my channel. The stars whispered across the void, their voices carried on rivers of static and radiation. Most of it was random noise crackles, pulses, the eternal hum of the universe. But hidden in the chaos was a pattern, a faint voice. Help us, please. Before they come? The words repeated, broken and distorted, over and over. Admiral Kale leaned forward in his chair aboard the TSS Valiant. The signal was weak, barely piercing the vast distance between galaxies, but it was unmistakably alive. Something was calling for help. Kale's gray eyes hardened as he listened to the message again. Around him, the dim glow of holographic. Star charts flickered across the war room. Lines traced the path of the signal back to its source. A dying star system on the edge of Dominion space. The Dominion. The word alone sent a cold weight into Kale's chest. He pressed his palm against the command console, amplifying the sound. Please, before they come. Who are they? Kale muttered. And why send this to Earth? The debate Earth's high command had been summoned. Across the globe, leaders and generals appeared as shimmering holograms inside the war room. It's bait, growled General Voss, a scarred veteran from the last expansion war. The Dominion wants us to bite. We move in, they spring a trap. It doesn't sound like the Dominion, countered Dr. Liang, chief xenologist. This voice is terrified. These aren't conquerors. They're victims. Either way, Voss snapped, it's not our fight. Earth has kept to itself for centuries. We sealed the borders for a reason. The galaxy fears us, let's keep it that way. Kale remained silent as the voices rose around him. The Valerithi alien race sending the signal were unknown to Earth's archives. But the Kryn Dominion? They were infamous. A sprawling empire of slavers and warlords. Their fleets had turned countless worlds into ashes. And now, for reasons unknown, the Valere had sent their plea across unimaginable light years to humanity. Kale's hand tightened into a fist. They're scared of something, he said quietly. The room fell silent. And if the Dominion enslaves them, how long before they turn their eyes on Earth again? The Legionnaires deep beneath. Earth's surface, in frozen vaults older than most nations. The Legionnaires slept. They were humanity's final weapon warriors engineered for total dominance. Bones reinforced with titanium latticework, reflexes tuned beyond natural limits. Minds augmented by combat AI. They were more than soldiers. They were predators designed to end wars before they began. CRYO-pods lined the vault walls like coffins of glass and steel. A dull blue light pulsed slowly through the chamber, the rhythm of artificial hearts, and then hisses. The first pod unlocked. Frost spilled onto the floor as ancient machinery woke its charge. Inside, a giant of a man stirred. His eyes snapped open, glowing faintly in the darkness. A voice spoke in his earpiece. Wake up, Legionnaire. There's work to do. He smiled. Predator's smile. Kale's decision, you can't do this, Voss barked. The Legionnaires are a last resort. If we deploy them, the galaxy will never forgive us. Good. Kale's voice was cold, final. They sent the signal. They woke us up. Now it's too late to stop what's coming. He pressed a command into the console. Across the solar system, war factories hummed to life. Orbital docks released vast carriers and gunships from magnetic clamps. Swarms of drones gathered in formation like shoals of metal fish. Humanity's fleet had slept long enough. The signal repeats far away. In the Valari homeworld skies, fire rained down as Dominion warships entered orbit. The Valari High Chancellor stared at the heavens, tears streaming down her translucent face. Where is your help? She whispered into the void. In her hand, the transmitter light blinked faintly. The SOS repeated into space like a dying heartbeat. Help us, please, before they come. But in the shadows between stars, something stirred. Humanity was coming. And the galaxy would soon remember why they had been so afraid. The Legionnaires fully awaken and humanity's fleet enters Valari, space sparking the first violent contact with the Kryn Dominion. As humanity's warriors unleash their fury, Alien civilizations across the galaxy begin to whisper in fear. The humans are awake again. The vault doors groaned as they slid open, ancient steel grinding against itself. Cold mist poured out, curling around the boots of the soldiers standing watch. Rows upon rows of cryopods lined the massive underground chamber. Inside them slept humanity's oldest monsters. One by one, glowing eyes flickered open in the darkness. How many centuries this time? A deep voice murmured, thick with the weight of endless sleep. Another figure, taller, broader, with scars like lightning. Bolts across his face, grinned. His teeth gleamed in the blue light. "Doesn't matter," he said. "Point us at the enemy." The legionnaires were awake. The galaxy didn't know what was coming. The forgotten history centuries ago, humanity had reached out to the stars not as explorers, but as conquerors. They had built fleets larger than moons, forged weapons that could burn atmospheres off planets, created soldiers who were more machine than flesh. For a time, Earth was feared across the stars. Alien empires whispered humanity's name like a curse. Entire species surrendered at the sight of Terran war banners. But then, the silence. One day humanity had simply stopped. Their fleets vanished back into the void. Their colonies went dark. And their armies, like the legionnaires, were sealed away in cryotombs beneath the earth. Some said it was mercy. Others believed it was arrogance. Humanity had grown bored of ruling lesser species. The truth was far simpler. The Terrans had withdrawn, because they didn't need the galaxy anymore. The call to arms Admiral Kale stood on the command deck of the TSS Valiant, staring out at the vast expanse of the solar fleet. Ships stretched as far as the eye could see. Hundreds of sleek war cruisers and towering dreadnoughts, each bristling with weapons of unimaginable power. Behind him, holodisplays flickered too. Life, showing the reactivation of Earth's war factories. Orbital shipyards churned out new vessels by the hour. AI-controlled drone swarms assembled around the fleet, a shimmering cloud of death. Status. Kale asked. 200 combat-ready vessels, replied Commander Soren. Legionnaire battalions are at full strength, awaiting your orders. Kale's expression was unreadable. They sent a cry for help. We'll give them an answer the galaxy will never forget. The warning they came uninvited, 3 alien ambassadors representing powerful galactic civilizations. The first, a spindly creature with insect-like limbs, spoke in a chittering voice. Admiral Kale, we greet you as envoys of peace. Earth must remain neutral. The Kryn Dominion's war does not concern your kind. The second, a gelatinous mass of shifting colors, rippled with agitation. Should you interfere, you risk awakening the entire galaxy's wrath. The third, cold and serpentine, hissed, we remember what your species is capable of. Do not make us remind you that the balance of power has shifted in your absence. Kale turned to them slowly, his boots echoing on the polished deck. His voice was calm, but laced with steel. You came here to warn us? They nodded. Then, take this warning back to your masters, Kale said. Earth does not kneel. Not to the Dominion, not to anyone. The room fell silent. You think the galaxy fears us because of what we were? Kale continued. Wait until they see what we've become. The fleet departs. The time for talk was over. One by one, Earth's warships ignited their engines. Blue fire trailing like comets as they pulled free of their orbital docks. The TSS Valiant took its place at the head of the formation, a leviathan of steel and plasma cannons. Alongside it soared the TSS Revenant and the TSS Fury, each a mobile fortress bristling with gun emplacements. Behind them, troop carriers loaded with legionnaires rumbled. As they prepared for jump, from the viewing platform, civilians watched the departure in awe and fear. For generations, the Terran people had known peace. Now, for the first time in centuries, they were sending their soldiers into the void. A child clutched her father's hand. Daddy, are the monsters coming back? The man's face was pale. He whispered, No, sweetheart, the monsters never left. They were just sleeping. The galaxy reacts across the stars. Alien leaders watched in horror as their spies reported Earth's fleet mobilizing. They wouldn't dare, hissed the Dominion warlord. They're not coming to save the Valari, said another alien strategist. They're coming to remind us all why we fear them. But it was too late. The humans had already set course for Valari space, and nothing in the galaxy could stop them. Now closing hook for Part 2 in the darkness of space. The Legionnaires stood in formation inside their dropships, their armor gleaming like polished obsidian. One of them spoke into the silence. Who are we fighting this time? A voice crackled through there comes the Kryn Dominion. The Legionnaire grinned. Never heard of them. The dropship's engines flared as it plunged into hyperspace. Humanity was coming. Earth's fleet arrives in Valari space and is attacked by Dominion warships. Now the Legionnaires deploy in their first combat drop in centuries, unleashing sheer devastation. The galaxy begins to whisper in fear. The humans are awake again. The stars above Velora Prime twisted and flared as space itself bent open. Then they arrived. Massive. Terran warships tore out of hyperspace, engines blazing blue fire. The lead vessel, TSS Valiant, stretched over 3 kilometers long, a black dagger of armor and plasma. Behind it came dozens more dreadnoughts, cruisers, carriers all moving in perfect formation. From the ground, Valari citizens looked up in silence. The sky was filled with light and motion, but it was not the Kryn Dominion. It was something far worse. Who are they? Whispered a young Valari technician, staring through the reinforced dome of a government tower. Her superior, older and wiser, didn't answer. He just stared at the human ships with a look of dread. The ambush orbit wasn't empty. As soon as the Terran fleet exited hyperspace, Kryn patrol vessels, sleek and angular with red-burning engines, sprang from hiding. Of them rushed the fleet like wolves, firing pulse cannons and energy torpedoes. Inside the Valiant, alarms blared. Admiral Kale stood calmly on the bridge, hands behind his back. They were waiting, said Commander Soren. They always are, Kale replied. Deploy the Legionnaires. At once, launch bays opened like the mouth of a beast, small, fast-moving. Boarding pods shot out, aimed not at the enemy's engines or weapons, but at hull breaches. They weren't there to disable. They were there to enter. The Legionnaires land inside each pod. 2 Legionnaires stood in silence. They wore dark armor, bulky but elegant, with red visors glowing like predator eyes. No unit markings, no names, only serial codes on their shoulder plates. The pods slammed into the first Kryn cruiser, piercing armor with drill-like spikes. Explosive clamps locked into place. The hatches hissed, and then they were inside. Blasters fired as startled Kryn soldiers turned too late. The Legionnaires advanced like shadows through the corridors. Their rifles barked white-hot death. There, blades carbon-black vibrous words sliced through armor like it was paper. One Legionnaire kicked down a blast door and found a squad of Kryn waiting. They opened fire. The Legionnaire didn't dodge. His armor absorbed half the damage. He walked through the rest. He tore the nearest Kryn in half with his bare hands. The other screamed, tried to run. The Legionnaire shot him in the back. Without looking, the Valari react back on Villar Prime. The Valari watched the battle unfold on holodosh screens. One elder, High Chancellor Sarah, sat frozen as the images played. She had expected death or slavery. She had begged the stars for a savior. Instead, she saw monsters in human form, carving through Kryn ships like wild animals. Are these our allies? Her advisor asked, voice shaking. Sarah didn't answer, because deep down she knew they hadn't called for saviors. They had awakened something worse. Bridge of the Kryn. Flagship Admiral Cathar of the Kryn Dominion stood on his command deck, watching as his patrol fleet was torn apart. His 6 remaining ships were falling back, their engines crippled, his eyes black and cold, narrowed as another transmission arrived. A single Legionnaire had boarded the cruiser Shartle alone and wiped out the entire crew. Kether's voice hissed with rage. These humans are not warriors, they're butchers. Behind him, an officer trembled. Shall we retreat? Cather turned slowly. No, I want one of them alive. Captured on the second boarding wave, something unexpected happened. A boarding pod carrying 2 Legionnaires hit a Kryn battleship but was damaged on entry. The hatch stuck. Only 1 Legionnaire made it inside. His partner was killed in the breach. Alone, he fought his way to the bridge, taking out 47 enemy soldiers before they finally brought him down with a plasma cannon to the chest. Even then, he didn't die. He was stunned, barely breathing. The Kryn chained him to a magnetic wall and dragged him to Admiral Cather. The warning Thur studied the Legionnaire in silence. The soldier's armor was cracked and scorched, but his eyes burned with fury even through the pain. "Why did you come?" Cather asked. The human didn't answer. Cather struck him. The Legionnaire smiled, blood on his teeth. "You don't understand what you've done," he said calmly. Cather leaned forward. "You were alone." The Legionnaire chuckled. "So, we're the first meteors." Gave the Admiral pause. Then the Legionnaire said something that made Cather's blood run cold. "We're not here for peace. We're here for justice." "You call this justice?" Cather growled. "No," the Legionnaire said. "This is just the start." Admiral Kale's broadcasters. The last of the Kryn patrol ships fell. Admiral Kale opened a secure channel to Velar Prime. Chancellor Sarah appeared on screen. She looked exhausted. Hopeful but shaken. "Your message was received," Kale said. "You are no longer alone." Sarah bowed her head. "Thank you. But are all your warriors like this?" Kale didn't blink. "No," he said. "Some are worse." He ended the transmission before she could reply. The threat to come back aboard the Kryn Shadowclaw. Admiral Cather stood in silence. A transmission had just arrived from Dominion High Command. The humans' involvement had triggered a response protocol not used in over a century. The Dominion would escalate. They would send in the Reapers. Cather turned to his crew. "Pair the Reaper signal. Earth must understand. We are not the only monsters in this galaxy." As the Terran fleet secured orbit, Kale walked to the observation deck. Beneath him, Velar Prime turned slowly, a blue and gold jewel hanging in space. Beside him, Commander Soren spoke quietly. "We have one of their admirals in custody. Sent a warning before we took him offline." Kale turned. "SOREN," repeated the words. "The Dominion will send the Reapers for you next." Kale didn't flinch. He just looked out the window and whispered, "Let them come." The Reaper Fleet Elite Dominion destroyers, the system, dwarfing the previous patrols in size and strength. As the skies darken, Earth's fleet braces for its first true test. But Kale and the Legionnaires have no intention of retreating. Humanity is just getting started. Sensors screamed warnings. Hundreds of red markers appeared. Dominion's superfleet had arrived, and yet the human general only smiled. The silence of space was shattered by alarms. On the TSS Valiant's bridge, red icons swarmed. Across the holodisplay, hundreds of ships. Larger than anything Earth scouts had ever reported. "They're here," said Commander Soren, voice tight. "The Kryn Dominion." Admiral Kale asked calmly. Sora nodded. "It's all of it. The Reaper fleet." The Reapers were the Dominion's elite armadanon, unstoppable force sent only against civilizations marked for extinction. Each ship was a floating fortress armed with enough firepower to level continents. Across the fleet, officers and soldiers felt fear creeping in. But not Kale. The Admiral's lips curled into a cold smile. "Finally," he said, "a real fight." The monsters of the Dominion from hyperspace. The Reapers came. First, their vanguard destroyers, needle-shaped vessels bristling with weapons. Then the dreadnoughts behemoths, with glowing red cores and hulls blackened by centuries of battle. And at the center, their flagship, the Dread Sovereign, a ship so large it cast shadows across Velar Prime's surface. Inside its bridge, supreme. Warlord Draz of the Kryn Dominion watched Earth's fleet with disdain. "They sent this?" he growled. "A handful of warships and a few enhanced soldiers?" His aide hissed nervously. "Reports say they are dangerous, Supreme Warlord." "The humans are prey," Draz spat, "and the Reapers are predators. Today we will erase their name from history." Preparing for war on board the Valiant. Kale addressed his commanders. The Reaper fleet isn't here to negotiate, Kale said. They're here to annihilate us. They think we'll break. They think we'll beg. He paused, scanning the room. They've forgotten who we are. In the Legionnaire bays, thousands of armored titans stood ready. Each was a weapon, honed for war. Planet-side or orbit, growled Captain Rourke, leader of the Legionnaires. Doesn't matter. Give the order, Admiral. Kale turned to the Valari envoy, a slender alien with wide, trembling eyes. Do your people have soldiers? Kale asked. The envoy hesitated. We have defenders, but not like yours. Then stay behind us, Kale said. Watch. Learn. And when this is over, you'll understand why the galaxy once feared us. The battle begins. The void erupted in fire. Dominion Reapers opened the assault with long-range plasma lances, beams cutting across the darkness. Earth's warships weaved between the shots, their own railguns answering with tungsten slugs traveling. At near light speed, a Terran frigate exploded under a concentrated barrage. 2 Dominion destroyers followed, shredded by a Legionnaire strike team boarding them mid-flight. The sky above, Viller Prime was a storm of light and wreckage. On the ground, Valari citizens stared up at the spectacle. Is this salvation? One asked in awe. The elder beside him shook his head. No, this is vengeance. The stalemate hours passed. Both sides traded devastating blows. The Terran fleet's smaller numbers were offset by precision and brutality. Legionnaires boarded and destroyed 4 more Reaper dreadnoughts, but the Dominion's numbers were endless. For every ship they lost, 2 more pressed forward. On the Valiant's bridge, Soren spoke grimly. We're holding them, but we can't keep this up forever. They'll overwhelm us. Hale didn't flinch. Then we bleed them, he said. Every ship, every soldier. We make them pay for every inch. Soren hesitated. If they break through? Kale's cold smile returned. They won't. The Valeris Choice Inn, the Valeris Command Hall. Chancellor Sarah watched live feeds of the battle. Her advisors begged her to run, to hide underground, but she shook her head. No. The humans are fighting for us. It's time we fight with them. Valari warships, small and outdated compared to the Reapers, rose from the planet's surface. They joined Earth's fleet, forming a protective shield around their world. For the first time in centuries, Viller Prime's defenders stood alongside. Another species, the message back on the dread sovereign warlord Draz seethed. How are they still fighting? He roared. A Kryn officer approached cautiously. Supreme Warlord. We have intercepted a human transmission. Draz gestured impatiently. The message played. Admiral. Kale's voice echoed across the Kryn flagship. You sent the Reapers. Good. Now you've got our attention. We are not here to bargain. We are not here to run. We are here to remind. You. Humanity does not bow. Humanity does not break. When your Reapers are nothing but dust, tell the rest of the galaxy. The Terrans have returned. The bridge fell silent. For the first time, Draz felt something alien creep into his chest. Fear on the valiant Kale stood at the observation deck. Wreckage floated outside Terran and Kryn alike. Commander Soren approached cautiously. We stopped them. For now. But their numbers? Kale raised a hand. This was only round 1, Kale said. His eyes burned as he stared at the distant Kryn armada regrouping. They'll come again, stronger. Soren asked quietly, and what will we do then? Kale's voice was a whisper. We finish what we started. The Dominion begins a massive planetary invasion of Viller Prime. Kryn drop pods rain fire across the surface as the Legionnaires deploy in force. Humanity's most dangerous soldiers show the galaxy why they are feared. Wipe it for with... Kryn drop pods rained fire over Velar Prime, but when the dust cleared, they weren't alone. Standing among the flames were Earth's titans, their armor glowing like molten steel. The sky over Velar Prime turned red. Thousands of Kryn drop pods screamed through the atmosphere, glowing like meteors as they fell. Each pod hit the surface with a thunderous crack, sending out shockwaves and clouds of fire. VLRI cities burned. But their weapons were ancient compared to the Dominion's war machines. In the capital, Sarah stood in the command bunker, watching the invasion unfold on a holomap. "They're everywhere," said one of her officers, panic in his voice. "We can't hold them back." Before she could speak, a new icon appeared on the mappa. Formation of human dropships entering the atmosphere. SAYRA. Froze. "Are they leaving us?" she whispered. "No, Chancellor," her aide replied. "They're deploying." The Titans descend. The Terran dropships tore through the clouds like hunting hawks. Their engines roared as they released their cargo Legionnaire, salt pods. The pods slammed into the ground with earth-shaking force. Hatches burst open, and armored figures emerged, weapons glowing. The Legionnaires were on the surface. Each stood 3 meters tall in heavy combat suits, their visors burning crimson. Their boots crushed rubble as they advanced, moving with terrifying precision. A Velari soldier peeked from behind cover and gasped. They look like gods. But the human titans weren't there for worship. They were there to kill. Shock and Dawathi. The first wave of Kryn infantry charged the humans. Believing their numbers would overwhelm them, they were wrong. A Legionnaire stepped forward, raised his plasma rifle, and fired a single shot. Kryn warrior exploded in a spray of molten metal and ash. 2 more Legionnaires advanced, shoulder to shoulder. Their weapons unleashed arcs of lightning, frying enemies in seconds. One Kryn soldier lunged with a vibroblade. The Legionnaire didn't move. The blade shattered against his armor. The human grabbed the Kryn by the throat and crushed it like paper. To the Kryn, it wasn't a battle. It was a massacre. Velaria and Fear Chancellor Sarah watched live feeds. Of the humans fighting, they didn't hesitate. They didn't retreat. Wherever they went, the Dominion forces broke like glass. "These are allies," one Velari general whispered, unable to look away. Sarah wasn't so sure. "They're monsters," she said quietly. Then she corrected herself. "There are monsters, for now." The discovery deep in the ruined outskirts of Velar Prime. A Legionnaire squad received a new mission. "Command has intel," their captain said over the comms. "The Kryn are moving a bioweapon. If it goes active, this entire star system dies." "Orders," growled one of the soldiers. "Find it, destroy it, don't ask questions." The squad moved out, cutting through enemy lines like fire through dry grass. The bioweapon in an underground facility. The squad found it, a massive organic pod, pulsing with sickly green light. Kryn scientists scurried around it like insects, trying to accelerate deployment. The Legionnaires opened fire. Within seconds, the lab was painted in blood and plasma. "Status?" the captain asked. A tech specialist scanned the pod. His face darkened. "This isn't just a planet killer," he said. "If it detonates, it'll consume the entire system in a viral chain reaction. Can we disable it?" The tech shook his head. "No time." The captain's voice was flat. "Then we burn it." They set charges, the timer ticking down. Escapes the Legionnaires fled the facility. Kryn reinforcements arrived in force. The squad fought their way out, leaving piles of enemy corpses in their wake. When the charges detonated, the ground shook violently. A massive green explosion tore through the surface, vaporizing everything in a kilometer radius. From orbit, Admiral Kale watched the fireball bloom. "Bioweapon neutralized," Commander Soren reported. Kale's jaw tightened. "At what cost?" "Squad's lost," Soren said quietly. They knew the risk. Kale stared at Velar Prime below. "This is just the beginning." The Dominion regroups and board the Dread Sovereign. Supreme Warlord Draz listened to the latest reports. His forces had been slaughtered on Velar Prime. Even the bioweapon, his ultimate plan, was destroyed. Impossible, he growled. There. Only human. One of his advisors trembled. No, Warlord. These humans are something else. Draz's eyes narrowed. Prepare the full Dominion fleet. We're done playing games. As the dust settled over Velar Prime, a lone legionnaire stood atop a Kryn tank, flames dancing around his armor. He looked up at the sky, where Dominion ships still hovered like vultures. Come on, then he muttered through his helmet. Let's finish this. Earth's fleet counterattacks, punching deep into Dominion space. The war escalates as humanity shows its true power, and the galaxy begins to wonder if the humans are saviors or conquerors in disguise. The humans didn't just defend, they counterattacked. And as their fleet punched into Kryn territory, alien empires watched in fear. Earth was awake again. Stars were burning. Across the void, Earth's war fleet moved like a spear, cutting through Kryn space. Behind them lay a trail of wrecked Dominion vessels and smoldering outposts. The humans weren't here to hold a line. They weren't here to negotiate. They were on the hunt. The counterattack admiral. Kel stood at the command table aboard the TSS Valiant. A holographic map displayed the Kryn sector, once a stronghold of the Dominion's might. Now it was littered with the red markers of destroyed fleets. Status? Kale asked. Commander Soren answered with grim satisfaction. 5 Kryn colonies neutralized. 7 fleets annihilated. Resistance is growing stronger the deeper we push, but morale is high. Kale's eyes narrowed at the center of the map. Kryn. Prime. That's where it ends. The Kryn homeworld. Fortress world of fire and metal. It was said no enemy had ever set foot on its surface and lived to tell the tale. Kale didn't care. Prepare the legionnaires, he said coldly. We take the fight to their heart. The galaxy watches, but humanity's campaign wasn't unnoticed. Across the stars, other alien empires watched the advance with growing unease. On the lush world of Giril, the High Council met in secret. The humans are destroying the Dominion, said one counselor. We should rejoice, fools hissed another. Once the Kryn fall, who do you think they'll come for next? The Terrans don't conquer. Out of need, they conquer because it's their nature. In the shadows, plans began to form. Old enemies whispered to one another, we must unite. For the humans unite us in chains. The Kryn's fortress whirled as Earth's fleet punched deeper into enemy territory. The first images of Kryn Prime appeared on their screens. It was hell. The planet's surface was a wasteland of black rock and rivers of lava. Massive defense batteries ringed the skies. The Kryn had turned their homeworld into a fortress, daring anyone to attack. On the bridge of the Dread Sovereign, Supreme Warlord Draz stood before his generals. They have come far, Draz growled, but this is where their advance dies. No species has ever breached our world's defenses. An aide spoke nervously. These humans, they are different, my lord. Draz slammed his clawed hand onto the console. Then we exterminate them to the last man. Legionnaire's deadliest mission in the Valiant's armory. The Legionnaires prepared. They moved silently, checking weapons and armor, their expressions unreadable behind glowing red visors. Captain Rourke addressed them. Kryn Prime is no ordinary. Target, anti-orbital defenses, bioplague zones, enemy elites. They'll be landing in hell itself. One legionnaire spoke up, his voice deep and calm. We're already going to hell? Yes, Rourke answered. The soldier chuckled darkly. Good, then we won't have to aim. The plan Kale outlined the assault. Step 1. The fleet would engage. The Kryn Armada in orbit, drawing their defenses outward. Step 2. Stealth pods would deliver Legionnaire. Squads 2 critical points on the planet's surface. Step 3. The Legionnaires would disable planetary shields and weapons, opening a path for Earth's full invasion force. High risk, Soren warned. Kale didn't blink. High reward. If Kryn Prime burns, the Dominion falls. The first strike Earth's fleet entered Kryn Prime's system under heavy fire. The Dominion's warships fought like cornered beasts, their formations tight, their weapons fierce, but the humans pressed on. On board the TSS Fury, Admiral Kale issued the order. Legionnaires, deploy. Dozens of stealth pods detached from the carriers, streaking through the void toward the planet's surface. Each pod carried death in human form. The galaxy holds its breath back in neutral space. Alien leaders watched transmissions of the battle. In silence, "They're going for the heart," whispered a Zhaarn ambassador. "Do they even know fear?" asked another. A grizzled veteran of an older war shook his head. "No, the Terrans are not fighting to survive. They're fighting to win." On Kryn Prime's burning surface, a Legionnaire squad emerged from their stealth pod above them. Plasma fire streaked the sky. Before them, rows of Dominion heavy infantry blocked the way. The squad leader spoke into his come. "This is Legion Strike Team 1. We've landed." He raised his rifle, eyes glowing red. "Now let's tear their empire apart." The Legionnaires waged brutal combat across Kryn Prime's surface, sabotaging defenses and fighting Dominion elites. But an ancient Kryn weapon is awakened, forcing humanity's titans into a desperate battle to survive. Orbiting the Kryn homeworld was a dead moon strewn with bones, wreckage, and war trophies. And this is where humanity's warriors landed first. The moon hung like a scarred sentinel above Kryn Prime. It wasn't lifeless. This was no ordinary moon. It was a fortress, a graveyard, and a monument to the Dominion's power. Broken starships littered its surface. Spikes of alien skulls and armor jutted from the craters. Trophies from centuries of conquest. The Kryn called it Thalkar. To them, it was sacred ground. To humanity, it was the first obstacle, the landing admiral. Kale's fleet held position at the edge of Kryn Prime's defense grid. On board the TSS Valiant, he spoke to the Legionnaire strike teams. "Thalkar controls the planetary shields," Kale said. "As long as it stands, we cannot touch Kryn Prime." His voice hardened. "You know what must be done?"
"On board."
Their drop pods, the Legionnaires, nodded silently. No prayers, no hesitation. They were humanity's finest. Humanity's monsters. The drop pods screamed through space like falling knives. Thalkar's anti-air batteries opened fire, beams slicing the darkness. Several pods were vaporized instantly, but most made it through, slamming into the moon's surface with explosive force. The hatches burst open, and the Legionnaires charged. Brutal close quarters. Kambakar was no ordinary battlefield. Its interior was a labyrinth of trenches, tunnels, and armories. Kryn warriors poured out to defend their sacred ground. They were fast, strong, merciless, but the humans were worse. One squad of Legionnaires entered a blood-streaked corridor. Kryn elites rushed them, claws flashing and plasma blades cutting arcs of deadly light. The first Kryn swung only to have his arm shattered by a Legionnaire's gauntleted fist. A second was cut in two by a vibrasword, its body collapsing with a wet thud. The Legionnaires moved as one, silent, methodical, unstoppable. A Valari soldier watching the feed whispered in horror, "They fight like demons." "No," his commander replied. "Demons fight for pleasure. These fight to win." The butcher's moon in one chamber, a squad found walls lined with bones, alien skulls polished to a shine. Kryn banners draped the ceilings. This was where their champions feasted and boasted of their kills. The Legionnaires entered like shadows. When the Kryn saw them, they howled with rage. "This is our moon!" One shouted. "Not anymore," a Legionnaire growled. Firing a railgun shot that punched through 3 enemies in a row, the battle turned hand to hand. Blades clashed. Blood sprayed the walls. When it ended, the chamber was silent, except for the sound of human boots on metal. The sacrifice at the heart of Thalkar stood the shield generator, a massive spire of energy reaching into the void. Kryn defenders surrounded it in layers, determined to hold it at any cost. Captain Rourke, leader of the Legionnaires, assessed the situation. "Too many guns," second-in-command muttered. "We won't get close before they cut us down." Rourke's eyes burned behind his visor. "Someone gets close," he said, "or this mission fails." Before anyone could object, he grabbed a satchel of plasma charges. "Hold the line," Rourke ordered. "I'll finish this." He ran. Kryn plasma fire slammed into his armor. He ignored it. Claws tore at his legs, crushed the attackers. and kept moving. With a roar, Rourke leaped onto the generator platform and slammed the charges down. For Earth, he bellowed as the countdown began. The explosion ripped through Thalkar, sending shockwaves across the moon. Above, Admiral Kale watched from orbit as the planetary shields over Kryn Prime flickered and died. A dark revelation on board the Dread Sovereign, Supreme Warlord Draz, stared at the smoking ruin of Thalkar. Sacrilege. He hissed. The humans will drown in their own blood for this. An officer approached cautiously. Warlord, we've sent the signal. Reinforcements are on the way. Draz turned, his black eyes narrowing. From this galaxy. The officer shook his head. No, from the next one over. In the silence after the battle, Admiral Kale stood on the Valiant's observation deck, watching Thalkar burn. They've called for help, Soren said grimly. Kale didn't move. Let them, he said. We'll burn them too. But deep down, he knew this war had just grown far more dangerous. Humanity was no longer facing just one empire. They were facing a galaxy, united against them. The Kryn reinforcements, Arrivalian war fleets from a neighboring galaxy. The humans must hold their ground as the largest battle in galactic history begins. And humanity's true nature is revealed to the watching universe. We're surrounded, a Valari ally whispered. Good, growled the human general. That means we can fire in every direction. The galaxy had answered the Kryn's call at the edge of the Velar system. The void shimmered and split. Hyperspace rifts opened like bleeding wounds, and out of them came fleets hundreds, then thousands of alien warships. The Valari counselors watching the feeds turned pale. They've united, one whispered. Not just the Kryn. Dominion. Every empire that had ever feared Earth's return, every species that remembered the old Terran wars, they were all here now, and they had one goal. Eradicate humanity before it could rise again. The encirclement in orbit above Viller Prime. Admiral Kale stood on the TSS Valiant's bridge, staring at the growing swarm of enemy ships. The tactical display bloomed red as new fleets dropped out of hyperspace. We're surrounded, Commander Soren said grimly. 12,000 vessels and counting. The Valeri envoy's voice shook. You must retreat, Admiral. No force can stand against this? But Kale didn't move. Instead, a cold smile crept onto his face. Good, he said. Soren glanced at him. Good. Kale's eyes burned like fire. That means we can fire in every direction. Ancient weapons awakened. Kale turned to his tactical officers. Bring the relics online, he ordered. For centuries, Earth's greatest weapons had been buried hidden away under ice caps. Oceans, and even within the crust of the moon, humanity had withdrawn from the galaxy, but it had not disarmed. Massive Terran war engines powered up black, Kabbalisks of steel and plasma, planet cracker cannons, quantum singularity launchers, neural disruptor arrays that could erase the minds of entire fleets, the galaxy thought. Earth had grown weak. They were about to learn otherwise. The battle begins. The alien armada struck first. Beams of energy lashed across the void. Swarms of attack drones streaked forward like locusts. Earth's fleet answered with precision. Railgun. Slugs punched through enemy shields. AI-guided missiles hunted targets relentlessly. Legionnaire gunships swooped through the chaos, cutting apart entire formations. In the center of it all, the Valiant stood unbroken, its guns blazing in all directions. The Valari watched in awe from their homeworld below. These humans, one whispered. They're outnumbered 100-1. Yet they're not losing, another murmured. The suicidal defense on the surface of Viller Prime. Legionnaires prepared for their own battle. They dug in at key defensive positions. Waiting for inevitable orbital drops. Captain Rourke, second in command, spoke softly. This is suicide. Rourke loaded his rifle. No, he said. This is history. The Kryn and their allies thought humanity would cower. Instead, the Legionnaires planned to bleed them dry street by street, trench by trench. This, isn't there a galaxy anymore? Rourke growled. It's ours. The ultimatum in the midst of the battle. Communication came through. On the holoscreen, A coalition of alien leaders appeared: Kryn warlords, Kirili high priests, and even insectoid hive minds. "Admiral Kale," said the lead envoy, a serpentine. "Noble, this does not have to end in your destruction. Surrender now, and humanity will be spared." Kale's jaw tightened. "You're offering us chains," he said. "We're offering you survival," the envoy hissed. "Bow or burn." Duh. Bridge fell silent, all eyes on their admiral. Kale leaned forward, his voice a whisper of steel. "Humanity does not bow." He cut the transmission. The line holds as alien fleets closed in. Earth's ancient weapons roared to life. A singularity launcher fired, collapsing an entire enemy formation into a spinning black hole. Quantum lances sliced through super dreadnoughts, splitting them apart like glass. And still, the aliens pressed on. On the ground, legionnaires fought in brutal hand-to-hand combat, their armor soaked in blood. One soldier fell, then another. But the line never broke. "Hold the line, Rourke," bellowed Overcomes. "As long as one Terran draws breath, the galaxy will know fear." Hours later, the stars above Villar Prime were lit with burning wreckage. But Kale's fleet was battered. "We can't hold this forever," Zhaarn said quietly. Kale stared at the enemy fleets regrouping for another wave. "I know," he said. "Then we stop holding." Zhaarn blinked. "Sir?" Kale turned, his voice cold. "And sharp, prepare the fleet. We're not defending anymore. We're conquering." The humans launch an all-out counteroffensive, turning their last stand into the birth of a new Zhaarn Empire. Alien leaders realize too late that humanity's true strength isn't its weapons, its will to dominate. The Dominion fleets burned. Entire worlds went dark. And everywhere a single terrifying message spread: don't wake the humans. The galaxy was on fire. Above Kryn Prime, Earth's fleet moved like a storm, tearing through Dominion formations. Wreckage littered the void, glowing like embers in the cold dark. Admiral Kale stood on the TSS Valiant's bridge, his eyes fixed on the burning horizon. "This ends today," he said softly. "The solar lances awaken deep within Earth's flagship ancient systems powered up." "Admiral, are you sure?" Commander Soren asked. "Once the solar lances fire, there's no going back. The galaxy will never forgive us." Kale didn't look at him. "They declared war on us," Kale said. "Now they'll learn what war means." The solar lances were humanity's ultimate weapon. Beams of stellar energy channeled from nearby suns, capable of slicing fleets in half, for sterilizing entire planets. The order came. Fire. The burning of the Dominion, the first lance struck. A Dominion dreadnought was cut cleanly in two, its halves spinning apart before erupting into fire. The second beam tore through an enemy formation, vaporizing hundreds of ships in a single sweep. The galaxy watched in horror as live feeds broadcast the devastation. On Gurel, Counselor turned away from the screen, trembling. "They're monsters," he whispered. "No," replied another. "They're humans. We woke them up." The fall of Kryn Prime, the surface of the Dominion's homeworld. Legionnaire drop pods slammed into the blackened soil. Kryn defenders fought like cornered animals. But it wasn't enough. The Legionnaires advanced through the ruins, unstoppable. Plasma fire lit the sky. Vibroblades clashed in brutal duels. One Kryn commander roared as he charged. "You cannot kill an empire." A Legionnaire's blade silenced him in a single swing. The human soldier planted his boot on the commander's corpse. "Empires die screaming," he said coldly. Raising the flag hours later, the last Dominion stronghold fell. Smoke curled into the sky as the Legionnaires marched through the rubble at the heart of the ruins. A single soldier climbed the shattered palace steps and drove Earth's flag into the ground. It flapped in the sulphurous wind, symbol of conquest. The galaxy watched, silent. Kale's declaration on board the Valiant, Admiral Kale addressed the galaxy. His face appeared on every screen, every broadcast, even in systems that had remained neutral. "This is Admiral Kale of the Terran Federation," said. "You fought to keep us asleep. You failed. You thought humanity was weak. You thought we would break." His eyes burned like twin suns. "You were wrong. We are no longer protectors. We are rulers." The message spreads across the stars, a phrase spread like wildfire. Don't wake the humans. On war-torn worlds, Kryn survivors whispered it in fear. On neutral planets, leaders repeated it with dread. But for some, it was already too late. The humans were awake, and they weren't going back to sleep. As Kale watched Kryn Prime burn from orbit, Commander Zhaarn approached him cautiously. "It's done," Zhaarn said. "The Dominion is finished." Kale didn't answer. His gaze was still fixed on the fires below. Admiral Zhaarn asked softly, "What happens now?" Kale's voice was quiet, but it carried like thunder. "Now," he said, "we build an empire. The galaxy scrambles to resist Earth's rising dominion. Old enemies unite, forming a last coalition to stop humanity. But Kale has no intention of stopping. In a final, bloody campaign, Earth's titans face the entire galaxy and the Zhaarn Empire is born in fire. On a burning Kryn world, the last alien emperor knelt before a human general. "Why didn't you spare us?" The general's voice was cold. "Because we warned you." The Kryn Dominion was no more. Its fleets were scattered, its planets smoldered. Its people were broken and silent, on the ruins of its once great capital. The last emperor of the Kryn knelt in chains, surrounded by towering legionnaires in blackened armor. His voice cracked as he stared up at the humans standing before him. You could have shown mercy." Admiral Kale's gaze was as hard as the steel plating under his boots. "Mercy?" he said. "We warned you." And then Kale turned away, leaving the Emperor kneeling in the ashes of his empire. The birth of a superpower across the galaxy. Humanity raised its banner. Worlds that once mocked Earth's weakness now trembled at its strength. Fleets that had sworn to destroy the Terrans now knelt before their warlords from the ruins of war. Kale announced the creation of the Zhaarn hegemony. "This is not conquest," he said, in a broadcast heard on every star system. "This is balance. The chaos ends now. Humanity will bring order to this galaxy by force if we must." Some cheered, was coward. And many began to whisper, was the Kryn worse, or the humans? Fear and resentment the Valar, Earth's first allies, watched in silence as Terran fleets patrolled their skies. "This isn't what we wanted," said Chancellor Sarah. "We called for saviors and woke conquerors." But there was no going back. The legionnaires stood guard over every major trade route. Earth's influence spread like wildfire. Even former allies began to fear that the Kryn's fate would soon be their own. The legionnaires sleep again aboard the TSS Valiant. Admiral Kale oversaw the shutdown of the Legionnaire vaults. The Titans of Earth, genetically engineered, cybernetically enhanced, and born for war, stepped, one by one, into their cryo-chambers. "Rest now," Kale said quietly. "Your work is done," but not all agreed. Captain Rourke, scarred and battle-worn, stood outside his chamber. "Sir, do you really think they'll let us sleep for long?" Kale's expression darkened. "No," he said, "but we'll be ready." Rourke didn't step inside. "Then I won't sleep at all," he said, walking away into the shadows. The final twist far beyond the known galaxy, in a dark corner of space. An ancient species watched. Their ships were silent, cloaked in black alloys unknown to science. Their voices whispered in a language older than stars. "The humans are awake." One said, "They've burned the Kryn. They've claimed the galaxy." Another voice replied, low and cold, "Begin the contingency before their fire reaches us." Admiral Kale stood alone in the observation deck, watching the stars. "History will remember this day," Zhaarn said behind him. Kale didn't turn. "They'll remember we gave them a choice," he said, "and they chose wrong." Far away in the endless black of deep space, something moved, something watching. In the shadows, a hidden empire prepares for war. Humanity may have claimed the galaxy, but an ancient enemy is coming. One far older, far stronger, far more dangerous. The galaxy's fires were only the beginning.